Evening. I'd like to call the January 21st meeting of the Board of Education to order. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is that my copy?
Yes, that's your copy. I've been done. Trustee Farron. Trustee Jaros. Trustee McDowell.
Present.
Trustee Miller.
Here.
Trustee Saunders. Trustee White.
Present.
Trustee Ning. Trustee McOwen.
Present.
Trustee Zamore. Quorum is present. We need an motion to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing a special education matter, the appointment of a person or persons, contractual negotiations with a vendor, the employment history of a person or persons, and collective bargaining negotiations with the Mount Vernon Federation of Teachers and the Mount Vernon Administrators Group.
So moved.
Trustee McOwen.
Second.
Trustee McDowell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
How long do we expect to be? 30 minutes?
Well, not too comfortable. I need shares at least.
Back in 30 minutes. Motion to reconvene.
Motion.
Trustee Miller.
Second.
Trustee White. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The record will reflect that Trustee Jaros and Trustee McOwen were not present for the vote.
I'm present now.
Oh, do you want to say aye?
Aye.
To reconvene?
Sorry, yes. Let's reconvene.
There we go. Report of the superintendent.
Okay, we'll have reports from the superintendent.
Mr. Davis, can you pull up the PowerPoint that's uploaded? First, just a couple of things for your attention this evening. First of all, good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'm asking the board to move the bond resolutions to the top of the agenda since they need to be voted on separately, so they'll be pulled from the consent agenda. And I'd like to just share a few things with you. Firstly, due to the anticipated snow this weekend, SAT testing will be postponed until February 20th. It's actually scheduled for Saturday, so we'll be sending that information out by way of the robocalls and sending notices home as well. And earlier this week, we received information from the Journal News. The Journal News reported that we had a 13% increase in staffing, and that information is inaccurate. We did hire about 13% more people, but those were not necessarily new positions. So the numbers that they reported included everyone that came on board. So if it was someone replacing a transfer or someone replacing a retiree, that does not mean that we had 13% new positions added. It means that there were 13% more people hired than there were previously, not new positions. So I just needed to say that publicly for clarity. And I also had the pleasure of attending the Governor's State of the State address with Mayor Thomas. I guess that was last week now. I don't know, my weeks are running together. We were able to share our thoughts during the long ride up there and renew our commitment to partner with the city and the school district to ensure that we create the optimal conditions and outcomes for students and residents. So it was really a great opportunity for us to really brainstorm some ways we can partner and create a unified front, including doing some presentations, co-presenting as it relates to the bond and how this impacts this community. So it was a very productive journey. And tonight, we proudly present data related to our efforts to increase our high school graduation rates. And what I want to do is, I'm kind of torn between how to present this, and I'll tell you why. We certainly need to celebrate our progress. But the fact of the matter is, until we get to the point where all of our children are graduating and all of our children are either on the pathway to college or on the pathway to the workforce, we need to recognize the amount of work and effort that still needs to be done. But at the same time, along the way, as we rebrand our district, we have to celebrate these small wins. So I'm going to share some data with you tonight. I need the clicker. I'm going to share some data with you tonight that is recent and will appear in the newspapers as it is no longer embargoed. That's all right. Don't reposition. I will do it from here. I'll attempt to do it from here. So the cohort data, the data that I'm going to show you, and it's just a couple of slides, The cohort defines a group of students who entered ninth grade in a single year regardless of what high school. So any youngster that was a ninth grader 4 years ago, they are part of this cohort, whether they were ours or not. And that's part of what's misleading about this data. And I'm going to show you some other data that is germane to just our 12th graders. The graduating cohort is the number of students who graduated from school 4 years after ending ninth grade, regardless of where they started. And the accountability graduation rate is defined as the percent of graduating cohorts that graduated with a Regents or local diploma, including August of their 4th year. So you know, although we have our graduations in June, students have until August. This bar graph just represents our number of students comparing the last 3 years. So the percentage vary because the total number of students vary. And the next slide does a better job with showing you particularly how our students are doing. We see a significant increase from last year to this year in all of our schools, with the exception of Mandela. But again, keep in mind that that number is lower. The number of kids at Mandela representing that graduating cohort is also lower, but still significant work to do there. This represents the percentage increase, and I think it is particularly noteworthy that we pay attention to all of our schools, but especially Mount Vernon High School, because there has been so much effort devoted to addressing that number that was dismal last year. And again, 72% is still a low number, but certainly moving in the right direction, and 82% at Thornton. And so now I want to move into talking a little bit tonight about this incredible opportunity that is before us. So you have a packet in front of you that I put together, and I've tried to color code it for you. And it gives you the first sheet is a summary sheet of the total bond. The yellow pages represent an estimate that was given to you. And you've all seen this, all this information before, but I want it to be fresh for you. You need another packet? Okay. The yellow pages represent the estimate received from school construction consultants. The blue pages represents the construction program, solutions, estimate, and the pink copies represent the portion of the bond that is the result of the building condition survey. And this is also uploaded in board docs for members of our public who'd like to view it. So tonight, what I'd like to just summarize as I kind of walk you through where we are is we've made some minor modifications, but this gives you a breakdown. This gives you more detail in terms of the work that is being conducted at each site. Now, those items that are listed under the building condition survey are very, very specific because that particular bond requires that we be very specific on them. The other items are less specific and are focused on these areas that we've been talking about and will obviously be fleshed out more as we get further engaged. Some of the phasing and when we plan to do some of this work has changed as a result of some of our conversations, but the educational programs at Thornton, the focus remains the same. IB will be infused as necessary based on the needs demonstrated by students, and this is approximately $10 million. The educational programs at A.B. Davis, again, making A.B. Davis a school that focuses on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, with the focus on chemistry, art, math, communications, robotics, and energy systems. And by the way, before I forget this, I had my focus group today with my elementary students, and the entire conversation was about the bond and trying to get them to understand what does a bond mean and why are we doing this. And I can't begin to tell you the excitement that these youngsters had about what this will mean for them when they get to high school and to be able to have a choice. And I asked them, I said, if you had to make a decision today about which high school you would go to, every one of them had enough information about what their interests and aspirations were that they felt that they could confidently make a decision based on this. Their excitement was just extraordinary. So the programs at A.B. Davis will cost about $9 million. Next slide, please. The program at Mount Vernon is about $10 million, and that's, again, enhancing some of the programs and expanding the services that are there, including the global studies and the TV production studio that is there. And the alternative high school is under review. Now, previously, we had talked about taking Mandela offline and reintegrating those students back into Mount Vernon High School in a CTE program. Well, there were members of the Mandela community, faculty in particular, who wanted an opportunity to weigh in on this decision. So we put a committee together, we had a meeting, and there were some recommendations that came from that. So we're still working through that. But ultimately, whether Mandela stays online or not does not impact the bond, and I'll tell you why. If ultimately the decision is to, go back, stay there for me on Mandela. If the decision is to keep Mandela open, we will be able to absorb some reasonable rehabilitations to that building in the general operating fund because there are so many other things already added in the bond that would ordinarily be a part of that. If the decision at that point is to close Mandela, then of course we're back to where we were in the beginning. It still doesn't impact the bond. So I share this with you because your approval tonight on the bond does not impact where we go with Mandela one way or the other. But clearly, whatever we do with Mandela, we do need to refocus and restructure that building so that it, one, serves more students, and two, that we have a higher rate of success. Because right now what's happening, and what I've shared with you before, is the number of students who are on roll is very different than the number of students who show up on a daily basis. So oftentimes we're operating classes with 5, 6 kids in them because, not because those are the only kids registered, but because those are the kids who show up on a regular basis. So we have to restructure that program so that it's more cost effective if we decide to keep it open. So that's what those discussions have been about. Phase 1 of this bond will begin, and our timetable now is a little in flux because we are a little further down the line with getting this approval in place. But that would include Pennington, Parker Fields, Graham Fields, the infrastructure, and there's a summary at the end of this, and of course, some environmental conditions. You've seen this all before with, again, the exception of the phasing. This portion of the bond, phase 1, would cost about $18 million. Phase 2 would look at bringing our pre-K schools on, pre-K school, which is now reduced to 1 site, and I'll talk about that shortly, expanding the KA configuration, putting things in place for Thornton, as it relates to the earlier slides, the infrastructure and the fields at Mount Vernon High School, and that would cost approximately $35 million. In phase 3 of this, which would be the 18-19 or 19-20 school year, the infrastructure from Mount Vernon High School, the academic vision, which we talked about, the infrastructure and this remediation would be about $29 million. Phase 4 of this would be where we would begin our work with A.B. Davis, and we would of course begin to look at how we would position our student population so that all of our youngsters who are currently in our, they would be our 5th and 6th graders right now who would be impacted by phase 4 at A.B. Davis, and this, it would be the fields, the academic vision there, and the infrastructure, and that would be approximately $18 million. And phase 5 of this, where we would bring it all together with the remaining infrastructure work that needed to be done for a total of $8 million. So the total cost of the bond that we're putting forward to you this evening is $108 million, and that includes infrastructure, the fields, and the academic vision. This also includes those items that were listed previously in the building condition survey, which is about, in total, $49 million in total. And this talks about the tax rate, which again you've seen probably 100 times at this point. What I'd like to say to you tonight as you consider these resolutions that are before you is that this bond is about much more than just fixing our buildings and beautifying our schools. It's designed to enhance the physical structure associated with the progressive, innovative school that prepares our students for a new world. And keep in mind that what we are talking about tonight is really about a legacy, because this will outlive all of us. We have a unique opportunity and the perfect opportunity to really make some major decisions that will change the landscape of this district for years and years to come. I have not talked to anyone who is not excited about the direction that we are heading in. Now, I can imagine that there are some folks I haven't heard from yet, and they may, in fact, have a different view. But ultimately, parents, kids, teachers, everyone that I've talked to has really expressed their support for this bond and said things like, about time, I'm excited. I've talked to teachers who had contemplated leaving who are now staying. I've talked to prospective teachers who are interested in getting into our district. So this is really not just about powder and paint. This is really about creating a future for children that we don't even know yet, children who haven't even been born yet. So as you consider these resolutions, keep in mind that this isn't just about paint and flowers and paving. This is really about an educational program that will change the future of Mount Vernon forever. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you.
I would like to thank this board before we move forward. It's kind of like a quiet moment, because I think we've gotten to a point where we've worked through a lot of the differences, the issues we needed to work through. And I would like to thank this board and this administration, because I believe, and if you feel anything like I feel, this has been a very arduous and long process just to get to this point, and we haven't even gotten to the work yet. But just to put this where we are today, it shows the change in Mount Vernon. You know, we worked through our differences. We handled our differences as well, and we got into a point where we're all in agreement. And we're all in agreement to the point where we believe that what we're doing is going to be in great benefit to this community, to our students. So I just want to congratulate everyone, not just the administration, but this board for working together and getting this community to where we need it to be.
Yes,
That's
I
great,
agree.
I
amen.
totally agree.
Thank
and,
you.
And thank you for that, Omar, for sharing that with the board. I believe everyone sitting here at this table feels the same way. And actually, I want to also give a shout out to Mr. Kent Silver.
Yes.
And I know it's been a rough road, and
You think?
and he's even admitted that in some of the concepts he was not a believer in the beginning, but he's certainly come around. And I believe that he fully understands where we are here as a board, fully committed to this town, to the citizens, and to the students of this great city. So I really appreciate his humility, but also his hard work in putting this all together and getting us to this point. Thank you, Ken.
If we're all going to take a moment, I guess this is the moment, right? I'll just say that it's so hard for any one of us, and I just want the public to try and step back and understand the situation that the city finds itself in at this time, and how remarkable it is that we have a board that can work together. We have a superintendent with a clear vision and the capacity to pull it off. He has support from capable people who can pull this off and get things done in a quick but thorough fashion. We are lining up people to supervise the work, to make sure that we don't repeat some of the mistakes that have been done by past efforts. And just the kismet, right, that the financial situation that the school districts finds itself in, both the combination of where our debt happens to fall during this year and the upcoming years, coupled with the opportunities, the unique, this short window of time that we have to take advantage of certain money from Albany, and to top it all off, that we have, we're embarking on a new and wonderful and hopefully close and mutually productive relationship with the city administration. And just all of these things are really coming together. It's a perfect storm in the best possible way, and I just really hope that everyone in Mount Vernon can help pull this off, because it's gonna take all of us. But all of the pieces have aligned to do something transformative to the city that was not possible 5 years ago, 10 years ago, may not be possible 2 years or 3 years from now. This is the right time, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna be amazing.
I agree, except I don't say perfect storm, I say alignment of the stars. To be like a little more cosmic about it. I'm so excited because when I'm out in the community, I keep hearing this enthusiasm, and I have seen a turnaround in the mood and the temperament of the people. They're believing this can happen. I mean, I know when Ken and I were presenting last night at a PTA meeting, some people were looking at it in disbelief, like this could really be happening in Mount Vernon. But I think it is the intersection of this new energy in the city with a new mayor and the energy that we've established with this phenomenal administration and this phenomenally committed board. It's just, I think it's infectious, and I think everywhere you look, people have hope in their eyes. So I agree that this is phenomenal. I know the board is going to work, we're going to just work 24/7 for the next couple of months to try to get this passed, to make sure we communicate effectively and answer everyone's questions. And I think we've got a good plan to address that, but we're going to need everyone pulling for us and everyone, talking to 5 people every day or every other day about what transformation is actually going to be like in Mount Vernon. So I'm thrilled.
Well, I guess I need to say. I'm very excited because we finally got to a point where we have come to the road and we're turning the corner. And it's been a long, very, very long time since this district was at this pace. So I'm very excited, and I'm happy to be on board with this board because we are a cohesive board.
Yes.
And glad to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, we're all happy about this. But people have to realize that it's not just about building infrastructures. The vision came first. There is a vision, an academic vision, and how to transform Mount Vernon schools. And then we have, board members, who are really highly dedicated to this. We argue, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
In a good way. We argue. I'm not saying we fight, but we argue. And we did discuss all, the phases with the administration, within ourselves. Many did not believe that we could come together in this because of, of the past bonds, and so on. But we have dedicated. Each one of us here, I believe, is highly dedicated. But then we have the expertise of some of us, that really pushed us to the next level. And we have to recognize Leslie's expertise. You have to go and, know his background, and you would know that he's great at recognizing and at working with the administration, pulling together and being part of this, not making the decision, but suggestions, and then coming to the board and us believing it, and us agreeing it to it, us discussing it and saying, no, it shouldn't go this way, but he would come and convince us and say, you know what, this is, and then bring us to the next level. That's what really made this happen, so thanks, Ken, thanks, Jeff, everybody, because again, there was an academic vision. There is a vision about hiring. Who do we hire? Those programs are not going to stand alone. You're not going to create these classrooms, and that then not provide the right education, the right things for that. So it's a whole thing. I think we all in this together, and we hope that future boards, whoever they are, will continue in this trajectory. Again, thanks to everyone for their participation.
Well, I also am very, very thrilled about what's going on. The fact that we're interviewing people who have a mission, who buy into our vision is so exciting to me because without a mission, people just go along and plod along, and we have such a unique opportunity because we're gathering so many people who have insights, who have the ability, the capability to do these things, to work with us, Lord, and to just be our supports. So I'm just grateful that we all have gotten together. We've all been in interview processes for certain people that we are hiring, and thank you all. I appreciate everybody on the board, and thank you, Ken.
Absolutely.
And Ken, and Jeff, and Denise, and everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there are two things that I think will push us through. There are a number of folks on the board and in administration who we have an eye to the past, and the eye to the past is we've had some great moments in the past, but we're also looking at, let's not repeat certain things in the past, right? And then I think the other eye that we have is towards the future. There's a host of individuals here, and I think at this point, everyone is under the promise and the dedication of, we're ensuring that everything is possible, anything is possible. If you look at this entire process that we've gone through, I think it applies to how you raise kids. If you instill in kids that they can do anything and nothing is, they're not limited in any way, I think they understand what success is. If you never teach a child that they can't, they don't know that they can't, right? And I think for this board, we're looking at Mount Vernon, we're looking at the community, this school district, as anything is possible. And we actually also have individuals on this board and in the administration who have the skills to get us there. So those two views, I think, is what will carry us through the next 5 to 7 years when we have to go through the multiple phases to get this done.
And I'm just happy to be part of this board, working with these 8 other people and this great superintendent that we have, and who has a vision for Mount Vernon. I was born and raised in Mount Vernon, and I have never seen anything that we're proposing right now in the city of Mount Vernon. And I know it's going to happen. And I want to thank Dr. Ken Hamilton for his vision and picking the right people in your cabinet to make this possible, because it's going to happen. Mount Vernon is going to be greatness.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Okay, at this time, we are going to vote on separate items for the agenda, okay? Rick, you want me to?
You want me to do it, or? Good evening. Because of the bond resolution, we were not able to add the bond resolutions to the consent agenda, so we'll need a separate vote on each. So we need a motion to designate the Board of Education of the Mount Vernon City School District as lead agency for the review of the proposed school district capital improvements under the SECRA. Trustee Jaros.
Second.
Trustee Saunders. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. 5.2. We need a motion to approve the secret determination as an unlisted action. Motion?
I'll move.
Trustee McOwen.
Second.
Trustee Saunders. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. 5.3 was just an information item. 5.4 is a resolution specifying the necessity for a capital improvement project in and for the city school district of the city of Mount Vernon, Westchester, New York. A motion.
Aye.
Trustee Saunders.
Second.
Trustee McDowell? All those in favor?
I'm surprised.
Aye.
There's 3 guys over here. I have to discern. All those opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. A resolution authorizing the issuance of $108,357,500 serial bonds of the city school district of the city of Mount Vernon, Westchester, New York, to pay for the cost of a capital improvement project in and for the said school district.
Motion.
Motion.
Trustee McDowell,
Second.
Trustee White. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. And finally, a resolution providing for the holding of a special school district meeting in and for the city school district of the city of Mount Vernon, Westchester County, New York, and providing for registration and other matters in connection therewith.
Motion.
Trustee Miller, Trustee Jaros, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The motion carries.
One other item before we move on. The item for, trying to see where it is listed. Senior architect,
Yes.
Pull it.
we can move that from consent.
Yes, sir.
That from consent.
Is off of consent.
Can you list that number and read it into the record?
Yes, sir.
Separate vote.
Are there any other items to be removed from consent agenda? Anyone?
I have one, I'm just trying to find it, unrelated to the bond.
You want to remove it from?
Yeah, I'm trying to find which one it was. I just,
You just say the topic.
I'll find it.
what's the one about approving the audit findings from June of 30th, 2015?
Oh,
last year?
the actions to be taken?
Management's
Yes.
response?
Yeah.
Yes.
That is 11,
Or we could just talk about it briefly.
yeah.
What is the resolution? I don't understand. Are we accepting the report alone? Are we
We
just?
are accepting management's response to what our external auditors reported on. There were 3 topics. One was extracurricular activities.
No, I read it,
school
yeah.
access. Right, so it's just the management's response to that, because we have 90 days to reply to our auditors put out
Okay.
as.
And did we not,
control-
when did we receive that? Because the only date on it is June 30th, 2015.
So it is, the document was attached to our external audit report that we approved
Right.
back in October.
Right.
That was one of the documents that they have to send off to the state. And the auditors highlighted these 3 things, these control issues, and management sat down and said, here's why they've occurred, here's what we're doing about it, here's how we're addressing the issues.
Okay.
And the 3 items were discussed within the audit committee. And we're fine with all of them, and we've actually, especially with regards to the excess funds, we've already discussed as a board and approved
Yeah,
as
I
a
know,
board
yeah.
that we're doing
Okay.
that. So it's just for us to file the response.
My main question was whether I should abstain or approve because it was so long ago, but now I understand it's more recent conversation. I'm fine. We don't have to pull it.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
yeah, no, I don't think I think we talked about each one of those.
Yeah.
And
That's fine.
we're good.
I'm fine. We don't need to pull it.
Okay.
That's fine.
Did you remove that item?
I didn't refresh it. I didn't want to ruin the numbers while everybody was still discussing.
Okay, yeah,
things.
you can leave it in, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
And I
It's
left
part
the
of
seat.
consent.
All right.
Per-
I've removed the approval to create a provision and provisionally appoint a senior architect. It is an action item now, but is not under the resolutions pulled from consent, because if I do that right now, it'll mess up all the
It'll
numbers
change
for
all the
everybody.
numbers.
Okay.
But it'll appear in the minutes under that part of the meeting. And the resolution reads as follows. Whereas at the December 16, 2015 Board of Education meeting, the board approved a resolution creating an in-district architect position subject to the creation and approval of the Mount Vernon Civil Service Commission. And whereas the Mount Vernon Civil Service Commission declined to create a position title of in-district architect and instead recommended the title creation of a senior architect. And whereas the Mount Vernon Civil Service Commission has created and approved the position of senior architect, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education herewith creates the senior architect position and further authorizes and approves the provisional appointment of Yubisha M. Javosevic to serve as senior architect, PC number 311901, at a salary of $141,500, subject to the negotiation of a mutually acceptable employment agreement.
I move.
Trustee McOwen,
Second.
trustee White, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstention?
Abstain? Trustee Zamor abstains. Motion carries.
Okay,
There, I'm sorry, there have been 3 resolutions added to the consent agenda that need to be read into the record when you're ready. I can, there have been 3 resolutions added in. The first one is number 11.5, the appointment of an architect for the 2016 bond referendum. It reads, whereas the Board of Education of the Mount Vernon City School District requested proposals for architectural engineering services on November 30th, 2015. Whereas the school district received proposals in response to its request, which were opened by the school district on December 18th, 2015. Whereas the school district administration and an ad hoc committee of school board trustees reviewed and evaluated the proposals submitted in response to the school district's request for proposals, and whereas based upon said review and evaluation of the proposals, the administration and the committee recommend that the Board of Education award a contract for certain architectural engineering services related to the proposed bond referendum to Peter Gisolfi Associates. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Mount Vernon City School District award the contract to Peter Gisolfi Associates for certain architectural and engineering services related to the proposed bond referendum, subject to the negotiation of a rate by the superintendent of schools and the preparation of a written agreement by council. Now, and therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the Board President to execute said agreement on behalf of the Board of Education. 13.2 was also added to the agenda. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes an impartial hearing in connection with request for an independent evaluation for a student, Student B, whose name is on file in the district office. And 13.3 as well reads, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes an impartial hearing in connection with the request for independent evaluations of a student, Student A, whose name is on file in the district office.
Motion.
Trustee McDowell.
For the consent agenda,
Approve the
correct?
consent agenda, correct.
Motion to
Second.
approve the consent agenda. I will second.
Trustee Saunders. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Okay. Do we have any committee reports tonight?
Time for a committee report?
You want to go last?
Yeah, I could
Go
go
first?
I could go
Okay.
first. It's not that long. The Buildings and Grounds Subcommittee, we've met, pretty much every Tuesday, except for when some of our efforts took us on, the last one that took us on the interviews over at the 3 different architectural firms that were the finalists in our search, and that proved to be quite an eye-opener, and it was an amazing process to have gone through. And the one thing I have to say is that this district is getting a firm that really is of excellence, and we have everything to be proud of, and finally, Mount Vernon will have it, basically buildings, tools for the students, and a place for them to go and learn and to be nurtured, a place of excellence. So I'm really happy for that. Also, some little minor issues throughout the district that we've been evaluating. We've been evaluating, for example, how trash is stored and stored for pickup. It's been, in some of the facilities, pretty haphazardly, thrown on the property, waiting for, animals to tear through it. And so containment of our garbage and how it's picked up is being evaluated right now by the Facilities Department. On another note, we have, for example, this past Tuesday, or was it yesterday? I can't remember.
Yesterday.
Was it yesterday? Yesterday, we did a walkthrough of Holmes Elementary School, which is the beginning of our walkthroughs of all the facilities in the building, whereby at each meeting now for the next, we're going to attempt for the next 16 meetings to do a walkthrough of every single school and get familiar with the custodians at that school and the building's conditions at that school. We actually commend the head custodian over at Holmes for really keeping that school clean, orderly, and really is a model for the district. The school it's old, but it's clean, and the students could feel proud to be there. Actually, I had offered him a position at Mount Vernon High School, and he refused. But it's very important to know firsthand the conditions that the students of the buildings that the students attend, so that we could better address the situation, especially with the coming bond and day-to-day operations. It's hard to talk about buildings that you don't know anything about. So that's one of the things that we're doing right now is we're walking through every single building with the custodians and assessing the situation. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Omar, anything?
No report tonight. Just now, I did get an opportunity to look at the governor's budget as it relates to the district. The state runs are out. it looks pretty promising for Mount Vernon, as it normally does compared to other districts. But just after, I need to look at it in further detail, but it looked like GEA was restored at some levels, and Ken can correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, just through my quick perusal, and it looks promising. So
Yep.
we'll have an update at the next board meeting.
Yeah, for the policy committee, we tried to meet in person. That had to be rescheduled several times, but we did discuss, and you see on the agenda tonight, propose a new policy and for public comment, trying to address and respond to some of the requests we've heard from the public, which I think we're all in agreement on. So we're moving that forward tonight and happy about that. Well, our next meeting is tentatively Tuesday morning, where we'll be getting a report from the head of security for the district and review implementation of security for the high schools and middle school in particular. And hopefully this is the start of kind of a longer review and conversation about security in the district. I've been approached by Commissioner Kelly, who has his own kind of thoughts about ways the police department can be helpful to the district. And I look forward to having him attend a meeting as well and try and increase the district's relationship with the police department, because everyone benefits when you have a good relationship with your police force.
Do you want to mention the policy that you just changed?
Yeah, I mean, it's on the agenda. Essentially, we wanted to clarify some of the procedures for getting Rick's attention to get up to the podium. We do agree to allow public comments at every regularly scheduled meeting, so not just one a month. I know that was kind of a tale from an old practice of the district, but we're going to expand that to both meetings. We'll also give people an additional minute to wrap up their comments after 3 minutes. And to the extent we ever have special meetings, people are welcome to ask questions about agenda items as well.
Thank you.
The PR, what is it called? PR, Family and Community Engagement, all of
At
that.
the next meeting, we're going to come up with a name.
Yeah, that's right. It's just I just call it PR, but it's so much more than that. We met on January 11th in the morning. It was great. We had the full committee was in attendance. We had a really good brainstorming session about the upcoming bond and communications ideas, reaching out to certain organizations for assistance in promoting the bond. We also addressed, at Trustee McDowell's request, we addressed the idea of promoting recruitment and how we could come up with a plan to bring high-quality teachers, to have them really beating the doors down to work in Mount Vernon, in our school district. So we discussed a number of outreach programs to different universities in the area, and Michelle Michelle is following up on Teach for America and PACE and a couple of other things. And our next meeting is in anticipation of the approval, the bond approval tonight. Our next meeting is Monday morning at 8:30, at which time we're just going to follow up on some of the actions we laid out and just make sure we're making progress. And then we'll just be working in close communication with our PR firm, Focus Media, who has basically been ready to push the button. And we're basically all systems go to start the 2-month campaign to get the best voter turnout we've ever had in Mount Vernon. At technology, I attended a meeting, the CNI meeting, and we just had a brief update on technology. Trustee White will update you on the curriculum instruction part. But it seems that, the smart bond has been hanging out there, but it seems that the timing, based on the infrastructure wiring work that we're going to be doing as part of the bond, and also the instilling and development of a culture of digital acceptance of digital teaching environments and project-based learning, the timing is going to be really great. So while we hate to have to wait 2 years to be able to roll out this incredible wireless fantastic infrastructure district-wide. We can do all of that, and we can get devices in all the kids' hands, but if we don't have teachers who are willing to teach, who understand how to teach this way, we're going to be wasting money. So I really feel very confident that Jeff and Joe are really on top of this, and I'm very excited, and it just makes so much sense that we are, as Dr. Gorman says, letting the learning drive the technology. So they had a great meeting at Apple last week, and we're just brainstorming about learning in the city, and it was very productive, and I think a lot of teachers and administrators who attended got very turned on. So this is part of the transformation. It is part and parcel. You know, we have to get our staff to fully buy in and get on board with this new mode of teaching. And I really think we're going to be ahead of a lot of our cohort in Westchester. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Awesome.
Thank you. Regards to special education, we had Felicia Gayon and myself and Rachel DePaul had a meeting at Rebecca Turner last Wednesday, and we addressed IEP processing. Someone from Westchester Development came down, and she explained the whole process. We had a meeting prior to that, and it may be redundant, but a lot of parents really need to understand how we come to the decision to put children in special education and what resources are available to them. So that said, so we're going to have another meeting in February. We're going to do it after the break. We don't have a date yet, but it's going to be after the break. And we're going to have resources regarding activities for children with special needs, maybe something with Special Olympics and things like that. That's the discussion. Also, the Wellness Committee will have a food pantry at Parker School the first Saturday of February, which is February 6th. Setup is at 10 o'clock, distributions from 10:30 to 11:30. Okay, that's it for me. Serene, anything from education?
Yes, Darcy spoke on the technology part, but we had a presentation from Dr. Gail White-Wallace on the overview of some of the scores from the beginning of the year to mid-year. And I have to say, the DIBBLES program, which is a K-1 assessment program, has shown a lot of growth. Our kids are learning. And we also had the iReady, which is 2nd through 8th. And she showed us the from the beginning of the year to now, and there have been a lot of growth in our schools. So all I can say is that we're on the move, and we're making progress. And our kids are learning, and we're just working with them and learning all the new technology and everything that goes with the learning, because we have to be a partnership with our children to get everything done. So our next meeting will be sometimes in February, but our children are doing well. Thank you.
Actually, I have one more thing. We also have a restructuring subcommittee, which I'm on with Dr. Hamilton and Dr. Ning, that has been pretty much asleep because a lot of it has to do with the bond, right? So now that we have voted for the bond, this subcommittee, I guess, will be born, and we will start reporting on our progress there.
Thank you. Anything from budget?
Audit met on January 11th at 8 a.m. We discussed one of the resolutions that we voted on tonight regarding management's response on control deficiencies. The other thing we talked about was having our internal auditors, Tobin and Company, do a deep dive, a targeted assessment on a particular area. The area we've chosen to look at, based really on need, is our contributions towards the teachers' retirement systems. You'll see a resolution on that at the next meeting, authorizing Tobin and Company to go ahead with that deep dive. There's, I think, we're trying to ensure that there will be no discrepancies between what we think we should be contributing and what the state thinks we should be contributing. Ken, correct me if I'm wrong. So you'll see that go through for
Interesting.
next go-around, but we need to ensure that we don't have a surprise later on what the contribution amount should be, which would have a future impact on our budget. So we're going through those numbers. Our auditors are going through those numbers.
I just want to add one more thing to the education. Every student in our schools have an email. So parents, everyone has an email, and Joe is they're going to do something late February? National Go on.
Going to have every student email their
Teacher.
on that day and base it off of a writing prompt that they've been taught to by their teacher. And it'll be actually recognized on a national website that I'll pass across to you.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
The next meeting of the Wellness Committee will be February 2nd, that's first Tuesday of the month, at 5 o'clock. 5:30.
I just need to make a correction of what I said. I said distribution was going to be at 10. It's going to be set up at 9:30, distribution at 10, because I said 10:30. Just want to make sure. That's understood. Other than that, any unfinished business? Motion to adjourn?
No, new business.
Sorry, any new business?
Rick, do you read this, or do I?
I'll read it. Under new business this evening is a proposed amendment to policy number 3220, public participation at school board meetings. It reads as follows: public comment at board meetings. Members of the public, including the press, are welcome to attend all meetings of the Board of Education, subject to any limitations under applicable laws, including public meetings law. There is no legal requirement to recognize public comment at meetings of the Board of Education. However, the board recognizes the critical importance of community discourse and involvement in the education of Mount Vernon's children, and accordingly, members of the public are invited to speak at each regularly scheduled board meeting, subject to the terms of board policy. Any resident of Mount Vernon or any student, parent or guardian of a student, teacher, administrator, or employee of the Mount Vernon City School District are permitted to speak. No other person shall be permitted to speak without approval of the board. A speaker must register in advance by no later than 4 p.m. the day of the meeting by contacting the district clerk in person at 165 North Columbus Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York, by phone at 914-665-5235, or via email. When registering, speakers are requested to indicate the nature of their remarks, for example, whether comments relate to a specific item on the meeting's agenda, to a concern about a particular school, or to a general concern of the district. The board welcomes all respectful comment, whether praise or criticism. However, identifying and criticizing a specific student, parent, teacher, administrator, or other Mount Vernon education official or employee is strictly prohibited. Any such complaint must be presented and addressed through the proper administrative channels. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak. Up to 1 additional minute may be used for the speaker to summarize and conclude their remarks. If the appropriate board, trustee, and/or superintendent or other staff members at the direction of the superintendent may immediately respond to a speaker's remarks. In no event shall public comment exceed 30 minutes total at any one meeting unless all board trustees in attendance consent to the grant additional time. In the case of a special board meeting with business conducted in public session as opposed to a special board meeting consisting only of an executive session, public comment shall be permitted. However, all public comment at such a special board meeting must pertain exclusively to one or more items on that meeting's scheduled agenda. A speaker wishing to make comments of any other nature may do so at the next regularly scheduled board meeting.
Rick, we talked about changing 3 words in this paragraph that did not show up. Can we just do that live?
Yep. Why didn't it show up?
Well, we talked about a reading. Public comment shall be permitted as, as provided above.
As provided above.
Just to clarify, it's the same system.
At the special meetings.
Got it, that's all.
The foregoing paragraphs 2, 4, 6, and 7, and in the case of a special board meeting, paragraph 9, shall be read to the public by the district clerk immediately prior to the opening of a board meeting to public comment.
Motion.
Before, just one comment regarding should the minutes be in excess of 30, you said it must be agreed by all board members or a majority?
I said all that are present.
All that are present. So everyone has to agree. If one dissents, then we close.
Yes, and they can go to the next meeting.
Okay, done.
Okay, if the board would like to adopt this evening, there has to be a motion to suspend to waive the second reading.
I move.
I second.
Move to waive second reading. Second by Miller.
This way it can be effective next.
Next meeting.
All those in favor of waiving the second reading?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Oh, just, isn't it our policy to read it twice, so we're going against our own policy? Because it's part of our policy to have two readings of a new policy.
I thought we were allowed to waive it if the board agreed.
That's what he just said, but I'm just for consistency, it's part of our own policy to read it twice.
As a general rule, I totally agree. My only thought is that,
The next board meeting, they speak anyway, so.
but these changes are specifically in response to what the public has asked for, so I'm okay with it. That's the only reason.
I think you run into an issue when we change the policy at will. You know, it's a very simple policy. It doesn't really change the process. It gives the community an opportunity. They speak next board meeting anyway. So I'm just saying, like, we need to have some level of consistency. You know, and not just at will, just because we feel like it, or because a community member or board member or administration feels like it. It should be a real reason for us to go against our own policy.
So is this so that Rick rereads what he just read?
Next meeting.
At the next meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can't just repeat.
I thought it was.
Please no.
At the next meeting.
I was just saying,
Or
no.
waive me reading it while I'm reading.
So, would we like to reconsider?
Yeah, the vote was already
Vote was
taken,
taken? Okay.
and I just need to clarify, you were opposed to waiving the reading, correct? Okay. So we have 8 in favor and 1 opposed.
Wait, next time you should say something before. the
I was
vote.
trying to, I'm not moving super fast here.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion to approve, seconded by Saunders. All those in favor?
Aye.
You taking a vote again?
Oh, we have to vote on whether we're adopting
Sure,
it.
resolution, the option policy,
Oh.
yeah.
Let's go. I'll wake up.
On the motion to adopt the amendment to the public participation in at the board meetings policy, trustee Miller made the motion and was seconded by trustee Saunders.
Okay, any other comments, concerns?
Before we go, I'd just like to ask Ken, now that the board has approved the bond, if we could just, for the record, talk about next steps and when we will be asking the public to vote on the bond for.
They didn't take a vote on the, that's okay. All those in favor of adopting the public participation meeting policy tonight?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
This end of the table.
Back to you guys.
And?
Ken?
Good evening. Thank you for the kind words earlier. I appreciate it. It has been a long haul, but we've kept our eye on the ball, and we're at least to first base, maybe second base. So the first thing that will happen next will be we will be working on a schedule for the board members and administration to go out and try to inform the public about the bond. We will be going to various PTA meetings, as Darcy and I did last night. We have another one at Pennington next week. We will be doing that along with the superintendent next week. And so we're developing a list of that right now. I will also be meeting with the new architectural firm to review where we are and our next steps to get us to the point where the bond vote will be. And so we're not exactly sure yet what pre-bond work the new architectural firm will be, but I will know that and be able to report that shortly. The voting will be on March 15th, and we are meeting all the requirements of time by voting on that tonight and approving that tonight. We will be, for the first time, using new voting machines, and so we're expecting a challenge with that. We've already ordered the voting machines, and they come with people who have supposedly been trained on using those new voting machines. And I think that's about it. I'm not sure that there's anything else to tell you tonight.
I have a question. Some of the work that the previous architect that we had started working with for some of the bond work, what happens to that work? For example, let's say I believe there was some money allotted for some preliminary sketches and stuff. What happens to that?
There was their fee for pre-bond was $148,000, and we stopped that process at a certain point. And I believe I need to have a meeting with the new architect and the old architect. They're going to be working together for the next few years as the old architect is involved in the energy performance contract, the Excel bond, the pool, and so that's $50 million in work that's continuing on. So they need to work together, and I'm not sure what, if any, of this information is proprietary. We have plans and specifications for the Pennington addition. We don't know yet what Mr. Giusalfi will choose to propose. He may scrap everything and start again. He may have a completely different vision, and I think I've seen a completely different vision in the sketches that I've seen. So my first step will be to bring everybody together, not for kumbaya, but to have a serious meeting about how to move forward together, because they will have to work together. Now, I would say also we have gone out yesterday with an RFP for a construction manager. We have sent that to 10 firms we have identified, and the ad will also be on the state website and in the newspaper tomorrow for that. It's due back February 4th. There's really not much else a construction manager needs to do before the bond passes, so I don't feel any time crunch to get this company appointed. So we are moving in that direction, and we have done a survey of all the surrounding school districts and gotten a list of everybody who does business with them. So we feel that that will be a good complement. You may recall at the last meeting, or the meeting before, the board approved a state aid consultant who will also be at this meeting with the architect, and I did inform Mr. Giusalfi that we have this person on board, this company on board, to help make sure we get every dollar of state aid that we're due. And so my plan next is a meeting. That's where I stand.
Great.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Before, one thing I didn't mention tonight was that we had put together a meeting as part of our rebranding process, and to continue to inform the community about what's taking place within the school district. We put together a meeting, the superintendent and myself and the board and the PR committee with the realtors. That's going to be on January 28th, which is going to be a fantastic opportunity. The realtors are like our first line of, what's the word you use? Yes. Ambassadors.
Yes.
Ambassadors for our city to sell Mount Vernon. And as you know, one of the first things they look for is the school district. So what we need to do is inform these ambassadors who are going out and selling our community is what's taking place in the school district. How is the school district improving, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this meeting will be taking place January 28th at 9 a.m. here at the Board of Education Center. With that said, I'm also proposing a meeting to take place with our contractors, plumbers, all types of journeymen of such, so that we can begin to offer participation within our community as it relates to the work that we're doing. I'm a believer that we ought to support our own community, and so often we have so many projects going on, but it's excluded. A lot of the projects go outside of the community, and I think we need to at least offer the opportunity. It doesn't mean they're qualified. It doesn't mean they have the skill set. It means they need to come to the table and have the infrastructure within their own businesses and companies and capabilities to be able to complete the work. So we want to put together a meeting, just as we're doing with the real estate, with this cadre of, with this community of businesses, so that they understand what the process is, how do they bid for certain work within the district, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, so that we can have inclusion within our community, and so that some of the funding within our district can stay within our community and help to build it.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'm done.
You done? Okay, all right, motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Trustee Miller. Tremaine. Ms. Farron. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Time.
Yeah, I know.
Good time.